Hi, I'm Selena and I am the rehab director here at the SNF. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Jamie Berg, and I appreciate your time.
All right. So I appreciate your interest here in our facility. And if we were to hire you, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I'd like to see myself still working here for the same company as a trusted employee, but growing within the company, giving more responsibilities to myself, possibly implementing some trainings for current employees and new employees. I'd really like to see myself just learning and growing within this facility.
Okay. Um, what would be something that you can do for us that other applicants won't be able to?
I think one main thing that I can do that others might not be able to do is to build trust and connections with clients and their families. I think it's really important that in this setting, you build that trust with your clients because they're not going to necessarily want to come to therapy or be involved in therapy if they don't feel a connection with their therapist. And I think that's something that I know I can do as I've done it in the past, and also building that connection with their family members as well.
Okay, awesome. So, have you ever been on a team where someone wasn't pulling their weight, and how would you handle it?
I have, and what I did was I honestly spoke to the person. I took an honest approach. I remained respectful through the whole conversation, and it was important to me that I spoke to them in private. So, in handling the situation, I kind of pulled them aside and asked them if there was something that they were struggling with. Maybe they weren't pulling their weight because they were unsure of a job duty, they weren't sure how to do something, and I just approached them in an honest way and more of a team approach. If there's something that they needed, is there a way I could help them achieve that? So the outcome would be that they would be able to complete their job description without the additional responsibility falling on myself, but to approach it in a way that they felt like they were not being undermined and that I respected them and appreciated their job, what they were doing, and their experience as well.
Okay, thank you. So, what would you say your greatest failure was, and what did you learn from it?
I don't really like to think of it as a failure. I like to think of it more as a growing experience. For me, I think one thing that you kind of think about would you have done differently was my undergraduate school experience. Right out of high school, I went to undergrad and pursued a career in public relations and found a job within a senior community and fell in love with it. That is actually what led me then to becoming wanting to become a speech therapist. So even though I think it's really hard to look at something like that, like all the money and all the time that went into my undergrad coursework, some may view that as a failure. I viewed it as more of a stepping stone. If I hadn't gone to undergrad for public relations and started at this senior community as somebody who was involved in their public relations and eventually growing as a person and working more hands on within the senior community, it wouldn't have led me to where I am today. So I don't really look at it as a failure. I look at it as a growing experience, a stepping stone to who I am.
Okay, thank you. Um, so, what kind of salary are you seeking here from us?
Okay, great. I actually did a little bit of research, and since this is my first job out of graduate school and this is my CS position, I did some research, and in the state of Pennsylvania, it looks like the average starting salary is between $38 an hour to $42 an hour. So I would ask that my starting salary be $40 an hour.
Okay. So, if I were to give you that salary and let you write your job description for next year, what would it be? What would it say?
Great question. I think my job description would include selecting proper evaluation tools based on the client's case history, the referral, and their diagnosis. Taking that information then that I gather from that evaluation and implementing their goals using evidence based practice to provide the best treatment approach for that client. It's also important that the job description include documentation, following documentation guidelines that the company has set forth, remaining true to ASHA's Code of Ethics, as well as following HIPAA policies. The job description should also include an interdisciplinary approach, as I feel it is important that all disciplines of therapy and the rehabilitation team, as well as possibly respiratory therapy, work together in providing the best patient-centered care. The job description should also include that the person for the job, which would be myself, has a team approach, meaning working as a team, and that the new employee for the position would provide proper education and training to incoming and current employees.
Okay. So, how do you want to improve yourself in the next year?
Great question. I think one thing that I would really like to do to improve myself is to continue my education and continuing ASHA courses that allow me to grow as a clinician and continue my education in dysphagia training and aphasia training.
Okay. If I were to ask your last supervisor to provide additional training or exposure, what would she suggest?
My last supervisor was in an early intervention setting, and I think one thing that she would suggest is if I were to pursue a career specifically in early intervention, is that I consider taking courses in American Sign Language.
Okay.
I know it was difficult for the both of us when we were working with a client who was hearing impaired or who had ASL as their primary language. It was difficult for me because I'm not familiar with sign language. I didn't know all of the things that she knew. So I think even moving forward in geriatric care, it would be beneficial to still know American Sign Language or to pick up a second language like Spanish.
Okay. How would you go about establishing your credibility with the team?
I think it's really important to establish credibility with the team by establishing a team approach, seeking out my teammates for guidance, for support, for help if needed. Let them know that I value them and I value their opinion. I value who they are and what they can bring to the team. I think it's also important that I show I'm a hard worker. I'm on time and I do what I say I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to evaluate someone, that I do it and that I show them that I've done it. I think if you can't show your team that you are a hard worker, that you value them, and that also I'm an approachable person, they may not find me to be credible. I have to stand behind my treatments and my therapy by showing that it's effective, by showing that I'm a hard worker and I'm dedicated to this team and to my position. It's also important just to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
I know credibility and kindness maybe are two different things, but I don't think people will respect you and think you're credible if you're just not a kind person. So I think it's really important to maintain being kind all the time.
Okay. So what do you see yourself doing within the first 30 days of this job?
Within the first 30 days, I'd really like to get to know the team, get to know my supervisors better, get to know everybody that I'll be working with a little bit better, and really understanding their job. So I understand and know what they bring to the team. That includes your medical assistants and your CNAs that are on the floor, really getting to know what makes up their job so they feel like and know that I care, because I do care. Everybody has an important role in a skilled nursing setting, and it's important that within the first 30 days, I establish myself as a person who wants to know about everybody's jobs and that I really understand what makes this facility function. And of course, I'd also really like to establish a routine, kind of get down my days. When do I take lunch? What time do I start? What time do I finish? What clients are best seen in the morning? What clients are best seen in the afternoon? I'd have to familiarize myself also with company policies and become familiar with the company's operations and the way that they do things.
Okay. What kind of personality do you work best with and why?
I think I work really well with all personalities because I can adapt as a person. I have a fairly outgoing, bubbly personality, so I do think that I work really well with other outgoing, bubbly people, but I also respect and understand that some people are a little bit more quiet, and I can recognize that, and then I can adjust my own personality to theirs. I think because I am a person who's really aware of their surroundings and they're aware of the people that they work with, I think I can honestly work really well with all personalities because I'm able to adjust who I am and remaining respectful to everybody else in the situation and in the working environment.
Okay. And what's the most important thing you learned in school?
One of the most important things I learned in school as far as education goes, it was learned through clinical rotations. What you learn in the classroom really sets the basis for the clinical rotations. But if it wasn't for clinical rotations, I don't think I would be as prepared as I am to enter into a skilled nursing facility right out of graduation. On a personal level, I think one of the most important things I learned in school is to not give up. Graduate school is hard, as you probably know, and it is easy at times to just kind of want to give up. You know, you're struggling to stay afloat between working and classes and your home responsibilities, but if you don't give up, it really makes that reward so much better. And I think as a person, I've really learned from this entire graduate school experience is to trust myself and to grow and to just focus. And if I put the time and effort in, I can do it and the reward will be amazing.
These are kind of some brain teaser questions now. If you could get rid of any one of the U.S. states, which one would you get rid of and why?
If I could get rid of any one of the U.S. states, I think I would get rid of one of the Dakotas and just combine them. I think it's silly, but when you're talking about the United States and you're like listing states, sometimes you kind of forget about the Dakotas. Not on purpose. You just kind of forget about them. So maybe we could just combine North and South, get rid of one of them, and just become the Dakotas in general. That way you're not really getting rid of a state per se, you're just getting rid of the name of a state, but all the people are still there and you're not really taking anything else away from them, just the name.
Okay. Tell me 10 ways to use a pencil other than writing.
Oh, wow. Okay. 10 ways to use a pencil other than writing. You could use a pencil as a pointer to point certain things out. You could use a pencil just as an eraser and just erase things. You could use a pencil as a bookmark to hold a spot in a book. You could use a pencil as a mini rolling pin when you are in therapy with clients working with Play-Doh. The pencil could become a little rolling pin. You could also use the pencil in therapy as a tool for fine motor usage, and you could use the pencil to separate buttons of colors and use the pencil kind of as the guider to separate. You could use the pencil as a painting tool. Dip the end of the eraser in paint, and then you can go ahead and use it to paint. Some other practical everyday uses. You could use the eraser of a pencil as an earring back. You could also use the eraser or the pencil in general as a reacher. If you can't reach something, you could use the pencil to kind of guide it your way. Pencil can also be used to put your hair up in a quick situation. You're with a client and your ponytail breaks and you need your hair out of your face. You could just wrap it around a pencil. And that's 9. Number 10, you could use a pencil as a doorstop to a bathroom or your office.
Very creative. Well, I thank you for your time and appreciate you coming out and being interested in our company. That's all we have for you today.
Great. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate the opportunity, and I really look forward to hopefully hearing from you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.